Hello everyone and welcome to the 422 Business Advisor Show. I am here with Drew Carney from Endeavor Business Brokers, located at 635 East High Street. Welcome, Drew. How are you today?
Thank you very much, Patty. I'm doing very well.
Great, excellent. Let's start off with sharing the audience a little bit about your journey and what inspired you to start Endeavor Business Brokers.
Sure. I was a realtor, a commercial realtor, and a family member had bought a franchise of the largest business broker franchise company in the world. They're actually in 140 states. And she asked me to be the commercial realtor for her business broker firm. And we were negotiating the first deal, and it was all about the business. And even though I was there for the real estate, I was still negotiating the business. And she said, you know, you ought to be a business broker. So I went to Florida and I went to their training and spent a week there, learned a lot about business brokering. And I came back and I worked for her for a couple of years and just had the notion that I wanted to do this on my own and do it my way. So
Excellent. It's good to know that, especially early on in that career.
yeah.
Yeah, good. Can you tell us a little bit about a success story of a business that you helped buy or sell that really stands out to you?
Absolutely. Well, we haven't done either yet because it's a current business, but this is just such a great story. The gentleman had a stucco remediation company and for 30 years ran it perfectly. I mean, everything he says is just fantastic, never been sued, never had a reclaim. Consistent numbers, except for COVID and a family issue, right? And when you add that to his 3 years tax returns, it should have been valued, or most people considered it to be valued at $3 million, right? But we knew the story. We knew why it was low for that year. We could show that it was growing back to where it was, and we could show a history of what it had done for years and years and years. We valued it at $5.5 million, and we currently have it under contract at $5.5 million, and two banks are both bidding to do the loan for it. So
Excellent.
we told the story in a way that made everybody change their minds and go from $3 million to $5.5 million. So
That's huge. I'm sure that business is very, very
they
happy.
are very happy with us. I can't
Excellent.
share anything about it yet other than what I've told you, but I'm sure they will have a lot to say when it's all
That's
done.
a good story. Very good story. So what challenges did you face when you started the business, and how did you overcome them?
So my first challenge is I had a partner, and we were really starting to get very excited and moving forward. Funny thing is we actually had this building under contract and or under agreement, and he went hunting and at 48 years old died of a heart attack, and it set me back a lot, and I backed out of this building, and I took a real long hard look at where I was and where I was going, and I prayed a very specific prayer for a young financial wizard who didn't need money now, but would bank on the fact that this company is going to be worth it down the road. And I was working a charity car show, cooking burgers and hot dogs. 4 years I did it by myself, but this year I had help. I had this 21-year-old kid. And he said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a business broker." So he described my exact job to a T. And I said, most people say, "What's a business broker?" So he knew it inside and out, exactly what I did. And I said, "Okay, how do you know?" And he said, "Well, I went to Scranton University for finance, And my professor did business evaluations on tape, and I would listen to them in my spare time. I literally took 2 steps back, looked up, and said, thank you.
Your prayer paid off.
And it was exactly what I needed, because everything else I had control of. I could evaluate a business, but never do it as well as he does. And he is fantastic. The best in the business, and proof is in the pudding. We went from 3 million to 5.5 million.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that's a really cool thing that you prayed and you got what you wanted. Exactly.
Yeah.
Amazing. So how do you establish trust with clients, especially when you're dealing with something as personal as selling their business?
Yeah, I always say that a realtor shouldn't sell their own house because they're emotionally attached to it.
Oh, sure.
Imagine if you started that from ground zero, built it from nothing, paid for your kids' education, paid for your beach home, paid for all of this. You're so emotionally attached to that house. You need somebody who can walk you through that whole process. What we do, we consider just being open and honest, and we don't hide anything from our clients. We have a very open dialogue. Usually in about 30 or 40 minutes, they feel very comfortable with us and can make a decision on whether they want to list with us or not. The more that we work with them and the more that they see what a great job we do, the more like and trust they get. And that's when they start giving us referrals of their friends and other businesses.
Great. That's really nice.
Thank you.
And that's important to gain that trust in the first initial contact. Yeah. So I see that Endeavor donates 10% of your gross commissions to charity. Congratulations on that. Can you tell us more about that initiative and why it's so important to you?
Yeah, I always wanted to be that person who gave a lot of money to charity. Was never really in the position to do so. Mm-hmm. And I also felt like I don't want to be using a charity to build my business. So I had a meeting with my pastor, my first pastor for 20 years, and he said, no, you're not doing that. I think you're fine. Still didn't do it. Had a meeting with my second pastor. He said the same thing. And right at that time, they were starting a church-wide initiative, God's Vision for Your Life. And the pastor who actually wrote that program, his vision was to start a new church and do it differently. And he now has in 16 states and 39 countries. 39 churches in 16 states. He has all this, and the thing that really hit me is when they pass the offering plate, they say if you need to, go ahead and take some out. I've never heard a church say that.
Yeah, I've never heard that either.
But every one of his churches do that. And he wanted to be known as the church of irrational giving. And that just struck a chord with me. Right?
Yeah.
JT and I did not get paid for the first 2.5 years of working for Endeavor Business Brokers, but charity did. That's how important it is to us. So,
wow. Mm-hmm. That's big. That's big. We've heard that you are lighthearted, and I can see that talking to you. How do you bring humor and personality into the work you do?
Well, my dad told me as a trial lawyer, if you can make the jury laugh, you're halfway home. And his favorite joke was the lawyer going against him said, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is my very first jury trial." And my dad, without looking up or anything, said, "He said that last week." Right? Of course they laughed, and of course he won the case. Right? What I try and do is we are in very intense situations when you're negotiating and trying to, you're in two different corners and you're trying to find that middle ground. And sometimes it's so tense that you just need something to break that ice. And there's some chemical that happens when you laugh. I learned it when I was a restaurant manager, very young. We were crashing and burning, and
like an endorphin release.
Yeah. The fry cook made a joke that everybody stopped and laughed for 30 seconds, and 20 minutes later we were out of the weeds. Right?
Yeah.
it's just something that happens. And what I've been blessed with is being able to say something that just takes all that tension out of the room and allows us to make good decisions.
I would say that's a gift.
Yeah.
And that's having a little charisma, which you do have.
Thank you.
So when is a good time, Drew, for a business to sell?
Well, most business owners, when they reach 50, 55, and I talk to them about selling their business, they say, I got 5 or 10 more good years in them. Right? Mm-hmm. I met a gentleman who was 63 years old, had a HVAC, so heating and air, as well as a plumber. Right? 40 years, spectacular reputation, impeccable customer list. 2 brokers said there's nothing to sell. We got them $100,000 and covered our cost. Right? They were tickled pink. We also negotiated a job so that he would work for that buyer. No heavy lifting. He's not changing toilets or anything like that. He's there for his brain, not his brawn. That he worked first 3 days, he gets $50 an hour. A fourth day, he would get time and a half, and a fifth day, he would get double time in every single week. Right, so a nice agreement. Also, as much vacation as he wants to take, unpaid. Right, okay. They're working together now, 3 years later, and still very, very happy. But right. The sad part of the story is he's probably going to have to work until he dies, because he sold his business for $100,000. Right. If he came to me at 53, when he had 10 trucks on the road, that business would have probably been worth about $1 million. Then we give that money to a financial planner who can take that money and double it in 10 years. And now he has $2 million to retire, still works for the buyer making a living. Right? Right. And I know every buyer, every entrepreneur doesn't want to work for anybody else, right? But we can dictate those terms ahead of time so they don't have to hate their boss, right? Sure. Matter of fact, they end up liking their new boss better than their old boss, because who's harder on them than them, right?
Absolutely. So it sounds like timing is so important.
It really is, and it should be 10 years before they think so. Yeah. Sell it at the peak of value, get the most money you can for it, and set up your retirement.
Yeah, so it's good to have a consult just to really
absolutely,
know.
And no commitment on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what should a business owner do right now if they're even slightly considering selling their business in the future?
Really, they should come in and talk to us, right? We will take a look at it, their numbers, see where they are. I kind of equate it to the map at the mall. Mm-hmm. You are here, you want to be here, right? And here's the pathway on how to get there, right? We can tell them how to get there. If they need help, we have tons of business coaches, fractional CFOs, right, that will come in and do that work with them if they need somebody to come in and fix their business. But here's the thing. In the next 5 years, out of every 100 medium to small businesses, 48% will be for sale because of baby boomers. And consistently, only 23% of all businesses for sale actually sell. So you have to know if you're best in class, right? Yeah. And we can give you a couple tips to help make you be best in class and make it more sellable. Even if it's not for 5 or 10 more years down the road, we can help them to get prepared.
You're right. So it's so important to have that conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's no charge for that.
Beautiful. So is there anything else that you would like our viewers to know today?
Well, yeah, I think everybody who owns a business or knows somebody who owns a business really just needs to talk to a qualified consultant to see when is the best time to sell. I think that is more important than anything else.
I agree. It's so important. And, you don't think of that when you're starting out, but, it's good to know what you can retire with.
And it's sad, but most business owners don't invest in stocks and bonds or even real estate because they think their business is going to be the answer. Right. And when it's not, they put all their eggs in one basket. So We'll tell you if that's a worthy basket or if you need to make some changes to that basket.
Yeah. All right. Well, tell our viewers how they can get a hold of you. I know you're at 635 East High Street in Pottstown. Your phone number is 484-238-0897. And
That's our office number, so they can certainly call my cell phone as well,
Okay.
which is 610-952-8658. I am in meetings a lot, but I will get back to them. And our website is www.endeavorbusinessbrokers.com. And I think that's it.
Okay, fabulous. Great information to know. And thank you so much, Drew, for coming out and sharing with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Patty, and thank you for the help that you've done with both the magazine and with this.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Drew.
You're welcome.